vibhasakaya gurave Shantaya sannyasine Nanavadi nagetra sanghapavaye Yogindra vandyaya cha Mohadvanta divakaraya bhagavat padabhidham Bibhrate Tasmai bhashyakrite namostu satatam Purnaya bodhatmane Brahmaham yat prasadena Mayi vishvam prakalpitam Shrimad Swayam Prakashakhyam Pranami Jagatam Guru Yah Paramatma Jagat Srishtva Pravivesha Punasvayam Tan Krishnam Pratyagatmanam Vande Gopi Manoharam Yasya prasadadahamadvayatma Vishwam samastam Mayi kalpitancha Tam sarvalokaika Gurum Sarashri Swayam Prakasham Gurumanatosmi Gurunam Charanam Bhojam Pranipatya Nirantaram Tatkripa Leshatodvaita Chinta Kaustubhamarabhe. Now that we are trying to understand what are the different states of experience of the Jiva, Jiva being one, whether the Jiva is being called as Vishwa, Taijasa or Prajna, does not matter. But what remains is the fact is, it is that one same entity, reality. Now, why are there are these different names given to this Jiva? Because when associated only with the ignorance, meaning the causal body, called as Prajna. Along with the causal body, yet one more conditioning to be associated with, identified with, and that is the subtle body. So, Karana Shariram, the causal body, plus the subtle body, Sukshma Shariram, when this is the combination of the conditioning, the consciousness conditioned by these two is called as Taijasa. Ignorance, causal body, plus the subtle body, plus the gross body. Now, with this conditioning, which is a combination of three, the consciousness conditioned by these three conditionings, then it is called as Vishwa. So one, Eka Eva Jiva. Now, this Jiva has several experiences. In fact, it is a stream of experience, unbroken stream of experiences. The only thing is that what you experience and how you experience is different. And this difference makes the state as different. Okay, what you experience and how you experience. This creates the difference in the states. So we have seen Jagrata Avastha, the waking state. Now let us look at the definition of the dream state. How is the dream defined over here in the original text? Okay. So mosquito is happy landing, playing here. Okay. Okay. Jagrat bhoga prada karmo parame sati indriyo parame. Jagrat anubhava janya samskaro bhuta vishaya tajnana avastha swapna avastha. Now you will one has to include all these components of the sentence in order to understand this Swapnavastha, in order to understand the dream state. Because that is your experience, and if you are not going to understand, who else is going to understand it? Yeah? And the thing is, we have already seen this understanding allows you to be free from the identification. Okay? Therefore, so now let us look at the components that have gone into making of this definition. So the first part, Jagrat Bhoga Prada Karmu Parame. If you have the text, so put your pen and pencil finger over there so that you know what are we discussing. In this waking state, whatever you are experiencing, and the experience of that object then is also capable of generating either some form of pleasure or displeasement or whatever. Okay? Joy or sorrow, or just a mixture of it, or a very neutral. But we are able to experience these objects, and with every experience there is something like the joy, sorrow, its mixture and permutation, combination. Okay. So why is this being experienced like this? Association with anything, why should it bring you some joy, sorrow, or in varying degrees? It is because the karma, the past life, where one has performed certain karma, and as a result of it, now that karma has brought you in association with these objects, people, and situations, and now that is causing joy and sorrow. Now look at this. We people say that somebody makes me happy, somebody makes me sad. The same person you can say can make me happy, the same person you can say makes me sad. Now, on a closer analysis, you should be able to see it is not a person or anything. It is really speaking, at that time my karma, a particular karma, is fructifying in that way. And therefore now the association with the world is causing joy or sorrow. The moment you are able to see the role of karma, one thing will happen, and that is the complaint about the world, the grudge against the world, against the people, will be resolved. But we don't want, I want to be angry at people. Being angry at people, being frustrated at people, is that what you want yourself to be, a grumpy person? Why? And being grumpy doesn't make any difference to people. Being grumpy, you are making yourself sad. When one is very, very grumpy, at the most, what will people do? They will just keep distance from you. But being grumpy, you cannot keep that distance from yourself. And therefore, that grumpiness is going to be a torture to yourself. Why do you want to live in that torture? If your understanding, if your wisdom can give you this freedom from this torture, from this grumpiness, why not have it? It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't mean that you have to do anything. All that is there is simply to understand. And so this understanding is that some karma at that particular time has fructified, and therefore it gives, if it is punya karma that is fructifying, it gives joy. If it is the papa karma that is fructifying, then it creates sorrow. So thus, Jagrat Bhoga. Now this is the Bhoga, this is the experience of our waking world. But when the karma, which is meant to give you that Bhoga at, in its cluster, now that is exhausted. Now it has to wait for the next cluster to come and explode. But when this cluster is finished, Jagrat Bhoga is finished, and therefore there is Uparam. Okay, and therefore now a person finds that the association with the world is withdrawn. World of physical objects is thus withdrawn. So Jagrat Bhoga Pradakarma Uparama has taken place. Then the next thing is, not only that the karma has gone, but the association with the world, which means association of the indriyas with the objects, has to take place. But these indriyas, instead of going out, the indriyas are now turning inwards and going back into their closet. Indriyoparame. And therefore, even the indriyas are also getting withdrawn. Okay. Now, thus, association with the physical objects is not there for two reasons. First of all, it is because the Jagrat Bhoga has finished. Secondly, the indriyas have withdrawn. Then, now, thing is, during the Jagrat Bhoga, during our experience and association with the world of objects in the waking world, in the waking state, has created impressions. Those impressions of joy and sorrow, good and bad, all those impressions are now stored inside. Now, because they are immediate impressions, they are there on the surface. And those impressions, now, because of those impressions, what happens? Those impressions only come to play their role. Okay? Janya samskaro bhuta. Now these impressions project the objects. And therefore, Vishaya tajanya jnanavastha. Similar. So it is similar to the Jagrat Avastha, because it is the samskaras of the Jagrat Avastha which are now projecting, it is the impressions of the waking experience which are projecting themselves as the objects for you to experience. experience. So, Janya Samskaro Bhuta Vishaya. Okay, first of all, Samskaro Bhuta Vishaya. So, what is Udbhuta? What is born from the Samskara Vishaya? How is that? And that not only that the Vishaya is born, but you also know it. So, there is knowledge of those objects. Okay, Jnana Avastha. So this particular stage of your awareness, of your knowledge, then is called as Swapna or the dream. All the components are here. Now we have to analyze that is any component extra, or is there anything that is missing which needs to be added into this definition? Okay. Do we need to add anything more? Because if the definition is incomplete, it does not cover the entire subject matter. What is the subject matter? Dream state. Understanding the dream state. So we will have to add a component if the definition is incomplete. And say suppose if this definition has got some extra parts in it, we may have to remove those extra parts because it becomes ativyapti otherwise. So now let us see how this definition is precise or whether it is not. So we will go to the commentary section. Now, say suppose if we were to say just this much as Swapnavastha, what were you going to say? Vishaya Vishaya Tajnanavastha. Vishaya means the objects and the knowledge of these objects. There is an elephant, but if you do not know that elephant, or if that elephant, though it may be there, if it is not in the range of your awareness, then you will not experience the elephant, though it is such a big animal, but it is out of the range of your awareness. Therefore, so knowledge of it, awareness of it needs to be there. Object and the knowledge of the object. Vishaya Tajnanam. Both the things. There are two things. So Vishaya and Tajnanam. Vishaya Tajnanavastha. Swapnavastha. If we were to say that, let us say Swapna, the dream means the object and the knowledge of that object. Okay. If we were to say just this much, what would be the problem? We still can say it is dream. If you were going to say just this much, then iti ukte sushuptau ativyapti. Do you understand where is this definition going to lead you? It is going to lead you into sushupti, the deep sleep. Oh, Swamiji, the definition is not leading us to deep sleep. You talking slowly is leading us to deep sleep. No. Swapna avastha ityukte sushuptau ativyapti. It is going to overspill into the definition of deep sleep. How? Vishaya and Tajnanam. How can object and the knowledge of that object, how can that lead? How can that spill into the definition of deep sleep? Let us see. And therefore, Tadvaranaya, Jagradadi ityadi visheshanam. And therefore, in order to save you from confusing this with sushupti, with the deep sleep, this definition has included the words Jagrad Anubhava Janya Sanskarodbhuta Vishaya Tajnanavastha. So what was added in order to avoid this confusion? Look at that. Jagrad Anubhava Janya Samskarodbhuta. This part was added. Are you all getting it? Or is it, hopefully, you people are able to keep it up? Jagrat Anubhava Janya. Janya means born. Born from what? From the experience of the waking state. Jagrat Anubhava Janya. What is born from the experience of waking state? The impression, samskara. Okay. Now this samskara is, the impression is sitting. Then what happens? From this impression, some object is projected. And therefore, Jagrat Anubhava Janya Samskara Udbhuta. There is Udbhava. Now there is yet another birth. First birth was from the experience of the Jagrata Avastha, the impression was born. In return, this impression gives birth to something. What does it give birth to? To an object. Now, that object which is born only from the impression. Okay, remember, it is born from the impression and knowledge of that object. When you are going to put all these things together, now you are going to save yourself from confusing the dream state with the deep sleep. Why, sir? But we did not have the confusion at all. We did not have the confusion at all. Why are you saying? Yes, the confusion would have had been only saying Vishaya Tajnanam. If you were to say object and the knowledge of the object, such a state of experience is called as dream. If you were to say this much, it would have got confused, overspilled, ativyapti into the sushupti, deep sleep. How, sir? Can you explain that? Of course. So here he goes in the commentary part. I hope you people are there on page number 98. You're following. Can somebody please tell me, have you found the line?
Yes, Swamiji.
Okay, very good. Put your finger down on that. Sushuptau ajnana tat sakshinoho anadisiddhatvena samskaro bhutatva bhava na ativyaptihi. Now, let us look at it a little more analytically. In the deep sleep state, what's your experience? Obviously, you're going to speak about the experience after you are out of that deep sleep. So hopefully the early morning now you are out of it. What was your deep sleep? So he says, Sukham aham asvapsam nakinchidavedisham Na kinchit avedisham. I did not know anything. So what were you not know anything means what were you experiencing? Nothing, I did not know. Ignorance. So what is the object? What is the object of your experience in the deep sleep? Just ignorance. And then on waking up, do you don't say there was nothing, I just knew nothing. I just knew that I did not know anything. So that don't you say that there was knowledge of this ignorance also? So you knew. And therefore, if it was to be said that Vishaya Tajnanam, it would have had meant Sushupti. Because in the Sushupti also there is Vishaya and its knowledge, the awareness of this ignorance. Okay, awareness is never lost. Awareness ever remains. The objects of awareness will vary. Okay, like we have to remember this. Consciousness never ever varies. It is invariable. Consciousness, awareness, Chaitanyam is invariable. What varies? The objects of awareness. For example, you can say, I am aware of the pot. I am aware of the cloth. So then how are you going to say this? That it means Ghatajnanam, Patajnanam, awareness. So what is the object of awareness in this particular experience? The part is the object of awareness, content. In the next sentence, Patajnanam. What is the object of awareness? The cloth. So now the contents have varied, and sometimes absence of the pot and absence of the cloth also. But absence of the pot and absence of the cloth, does it mean absence of the awareness? No. And therefore awareness, the knowledge, Chaitanya Vastu, remains invariable, always present. That what comes and goes are the objects of the jnanam. The jnanam awareness does not come and go, and therefore these are the objects of awareness. So in the deep sleep state, what is the object? Ignorance. And also because it is that ignorance is also illumined, and therefore there is knowledge of the ignorance too. But this knowledge is not opposed to ignorance. This knowledge illumines the ignorance. Remember this. We will see that further down with more intensity. Now, in this case, when you're looking at the Sushupti, we find that there is object, there is knowledge of that object too. And therefore, if we were to say that the dream state is a state where there is object and knowledge of the object, then in that case, our definition would have got spilled into what? This definition of Sushupti. Therefore, Sushuptau Ativyapti. Now, how have you avoided this dosha? How have you avoided this defect of Ativyapti? By providing this part into the definition. What was it? Jagrad Anubhava Chanya Samskaro Uta, by adding this part. Vishaya tajnanamas. Now, okay, we have added this part. What did we add? Jagradanubhava janya samskara udbhuta. Samskara udbhuta. Okay. By adding this, we have avoided spilling our definition into the definition of sushupti, deep sleep. How? Look at that. Sushuptau ajnana tat sakshino anadi siddhatvena. In the state of deep sleep, ignorance is there. Yeah. Well, even the illuminator of this ignorance, the Sakshi, is also there. The awareness which illumines the ignorance is also there. Jnana is also there, yes. Are they both a product of your experience of the Jagrata Avastha? No, sir. So they are not Jagrata Avastha Janya Samskara or even Samskara Janya. Why? Because ignorance is also beginningless, always there. Sakshi, this witness, is also the witness who is Anadi, and therefore, Tesh of both Tabhyam, of Tebhyaha, what is there? Anadi Siddhatvena, because both of these are Anadi Siddha. Anadi Siddha means timelessly proven. Their existence is beginningless. Anadi Siddhatvena. Samskarodbhutatva bhava. They cannot be, the sakshi or the ignorance cannot be said as to be something that is born from the samskara, from the impression of the Jagrata Avastha. Got it? And therefore, by adding this part of the definition, which part have we added? We have added the part Jagrata Avastha, Jagrata Anubhava Janya Samskara Udbhuta. Actually, it is a Samasika Padam. It should not be broken like this. So, Jagrata Anubhava Janya Samskara Udbhuta. It should be said like that. It should not be broken. Anubhava Janya Samskar, and then break it into Udbhava. That would be something wrong. Wrong in the sense, grammatically wrong. So, because Sakshi and the Ajnanam is not Samskaro Bhuta, it is not born from the impressions of Jagrata Avastha. And therefore, we have added, now the definition, the part of the definition is Jagrata Anubhava Janya Samskaro Bhuta Vishaya Tajnana Avastha. We have got this part of the definition. Got it? Hopefully you are able to catch up on it. Remember, there are two places where things are born. One is the impression is born, and the second thing is something that is born from the impression. Impression by itself is born. How is the impression born? How does the impression take place? Through the experience of our waking world. Okay? Contact with the objects. Say, suppose you spoke to me. And then you got angry or irritated. There is an experience. Now, this experience is going to create an impression. I spoke to Swami, I was very angry at him. Now, this impression goes into your system, into the antakarana, into the chitta, because that is the repository. Then, from there, when the control, all the indriyas also have withdrawn, from this impression, something is seen. Vishaya is gone. Again, you see Swamiji. And this time, you see Swamiji. The Swamiji, I wanted to punch you. And so you see yourself punching me in the dream. So that Swamiji, even that punch, everything is from where? From the impression. So now impression is born and object is born from the impression. Knowledge of that object is also there, and therefore such avastha is swapnavastha. And by saying so, we have saved ourselves from spilling into the definition of sushupti. Why just Vishayata Dhyanam was to be said, it could have gone to Sushupti, that's why. Tavati Yukte. Okay. Now, Tavati Yukte, if we were if just this much part, is that sufficient enough to say it is Swapnavastha? Tavati Yukte, if this much, saying this much, is that enough? He says, no, yet not. Oh, you still have something more to add for us to understand what is Swapnavastha? Yes. What is that? If we were to just say this much means what? Jagrada Anubhava Janya Samskaro Bhuta Vishaya Tajnanam. If this much was to be said, this also is not sufficient enough to tell us what is the definition of dream state. Why? Look at it. Tavati yukte jagradavasthayam ativyapti. Because if this much was to be said, it can lead to overspilling, the defect, the dosha of overspilling into the definition of Jagrada Avastha. Right? How, sir? See, this is called as subtle thinking. Okay. Over here, this kind of analysis, this is Sukshma Vichara. Okay? Sukshma Vichara. I'm doing very Sukshma Vichara. Don't do any drama. The Shastra shows you what is the framework of that Sukshma Vichara. Okay? Now, otherwise, this fellow sitting like that. What are you doing? Very Sukshma Viveka I am doing. Nothing. You are just giving a pose. You're doing nothing. Maybe for a photograph or so. There is nothing about. Because there used to be this fellow here some time ago. What are you doing? Swamiji, I am doing Sukshma Vichara. What Sukshma Vichara? Don't ask. It is Sukshma, I told you. No, that is not Sukshma. This is what is Sukshma. Okay. This is how the Sukshma Vichara goes. Which means Sukshma means that you are able to look at it from very closely. Okay? Understand its intricacies. That is Suksha. Tavati ukte jagrata avasthayam ativyapti. If just that much was to be said, it is going to lead into the overspilling into Jagrata Avastha. How? Now let us see this with an example, because he also gives an example. Say suppose you went into the market, and then as you were passing by a silver shop, you saw on the display some silver coins were kept. Okay, so you saw the silver coins, just saw. Now, just seeing the contact with that object itself has created an impression, gone into it. Hmm? And you said, oh, nice, or whatever. Not so nice, nice, whatever you may say. You looked at it. And then that same evening, you and some friends have decided to go to a seashore. And you go over there. And that evening, it's moonlight. And you suddenly see, hey, what is this fallen over here? Some silver coins. And you go pick it up and you find it is nothing but a nacre, the seashell. The seashell. You find nacre. Now, in this experience, what exactly has happened is you had seen the silver, its impression was sitting inside. Now, because of that impression, again the silver was projected, which you saw in place of the nacre, which you have seen in the place of the that silver, what do they call it? Seashell nacre. Got it? Over here, everything that you have said earlier is there or not. Jagrad Anubhava Janya Samskara is there. Tat Samskara Janya Vishaya is there. Tat Vishayasya Jnanam Api is also there. In this experience, which is your experience of confusing, of misunderstanding the nacre to be silver, and it is the experience of your Jagrad Avastha, of your waking world. And therefore, if this much was to be just the definition of Swapna, it could have spilled into your Jagrad Anubhava, and the Anubhava, the Jagrad Avastha, meaning this waking state, and this, in this state, the experience of something like the silver on the nacre, silver on the shell. Shukti Rajata. In the experience of Shukti Rajata. And therefore, now he says, Rajata Anubhava Janya Samskaro Bhuta Anirvachaniya Vishaya Tajnanasya Tadrisha Smruterva Satvat Tadvaranaya Indriya Uparamaiti Uktam. Okay, now here we are close to defining it very clearly. Nice. How? Therefore, he says, we have one more component over there which says when the indriyas are withdrawn. When you are experiencing the silver on the nacre, the indriyas are not withdrawn. Just that the indriya meaning the chakshur indriya in this case, the eyes are still functional. They have not gone into their state of dissolution, but they were not able to function properly. They are still there. They are there. So they are not withdrawn. Their indriyas are there. And therefore, when we say the state where the indriyas are withdrawn, and why are they withdrawn? Because the karma has exhausted. So, because the indriyas have withdrawn, the impressions born from the experience of the waking now in return project or give birth to some object, and it is known. So how is this object? It is an object born only from the impressions. Okay? The silver which is born and seen is born from the impression. Okay? At that moment, the silver is born or it comes into existence. Because you are saying silver is there. So is means this is silver. When you are saying that even in that state of confusion or ignorance, is there. So you are acknowledging its existence. So some form of existence is associated with that silver. How? Because it is born from the samskara. Okay? Now, this is a very important part. Okay? And that's why we are dealing into not just, what do they call, goal-matol definitions of in Vedanta. Therefore, we have said that this is a Prauda Grantha. Prauda Grantha means an advanced text. It is not just, overall, that people feel nice, oh, we know Vedanta. No. It is a Prauda Grantha. We have to acknowledge its and appreciate its way of working. Tadrisha smriterva sattva tadvaranaya indriya uparamaiti. Now, uparame nimittamaha, and what is the cause for the indriyas to withdraw? Because the Jagrat Bhoga has finished. Jagrat Bhoga Pradakarmo Parame, because the karma which is supposed to give you the experience of the Jagrat is now exhausted. That cluster is finished. Till the next cluster comes up, next bubble comes up, it will be either Swapna or Sushupti. Now, we have a full definition, a proper definition of what is dream state. What is the dream state? Look at it. Jagrat Bhoga Prada Karmo Parame Sati. Now this Sati means being. Okay. Sati Saptami Prayog is there. So Jagrat Bhoga Prada Karmo Parame Sati. Indriyo Parame Sati. Jagrat Anubhava Janya Samskaro Bhuta Vishaya Tajnanavastha Swapnavastha. Therefore, all these things put together, we have a definition of what is dream. What is it? When the karmas which are giving the experience of Jagrata Avastha are exhausted, and therefore the Indriyas are withdrawn. Indriyas meaning the Bahirindriyas. What are the Bahirindriyas? Pancha Karmendriyas, Pancha Jnanendriyas, the five organs of action, five organs of knowledge. Huh? So Jnanendriyas, Karmendriyas, they are all getting withdrawn. So Indriya Uparame Sati Jagrat Anubhava Janya Samskar, the impressions born from the experience of the waking state give birth to some object. Impressions give birth to the object, and knowing that object, knowledge of this object, such state is called as the dream state. Jagrat bhoga prada karmo parame sati, indriyo parame sati, jagrat anubhava janya samskaro bhuta Vishaya Tajnanavastha Swapnavastha iti. So now this is what we have as our dream. Understanding is there. What is dream? Now whether that samskar was good or bad and all these things, let Freud decide it. Huh? Let Freud get along with that. We need not worry. All that we need to understand about Swapna is good. We have it at our disposal. So now we have to understand the next avastha, the next state, which is the state of deep sleep. We have seen what is the state of the waking state, the dream state. Now we have to see the sushupti. Actually, he has given 5 states. This author has given us 5 states according to the Brahma Sutra. He says, what are those 5 states? Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, Murcha, and Marana. Waking, dream, deep sleep, unconscious state, and the state of death. These are the 5 states we have to see. And because all these 5 are the states that belong to the Jiva. Who is this Jiva? With various upadhis, he is called as Prajna, Taijasa, and Vishwa. Okay, up to this point we are there. We will follow the text when we meet again. Brahmaham yat prasadena mayi vishvam prakalpitam Shrimat Swayam Prakashakyam Pranavami Jagata Guru Yah Paramatma Jagat Srishtva Pravivesha Punasvayam Tan Krishnam Pratyagatmanam Vande Gopi Manoharam Yasya prasadadhamadvayatma Vishwam samastam mayi kalpitancha Tam sarvalokaika gurum sadashri Swayam prakasham gurumanatosmi Gurunam charanam phojam Pranipatya nirantaram Tatkripa-leshato dvaita chinta stupamarabe Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः. Thank you. Aradhana, is she there or gone?
No, Swamiji, she is not there.
All right, ठीक है. All right. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Anything to convey her?
No, I'll then write a message. It's okay.
Okay, Swamiji.
All right, Mahadev.
Mahadev.
Tomorrow we will not have Tattvanusandhanam. Tomorrow we will have the question and answer session, right?
Yes, Swamiji.
Okay, same time we will meet, but we will meet for question and answers. Those who have anything to ask, please send the questions. And if I'm able to answer, thank you very much.
Swamiji, thank you. Hari Om Mahadev.